Hi, my name is John Brink. Thank you for joining us. You're watching a history of the BC forest industry. Our guest today, a very interesting person. Her name is Mackenzie Kerr, and I'm absolutely delighted to have her on the show. Mackenzie,
Thank you so
welcome to the
much for
show.
having me. Thank you.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about you. Were you born in northern BC or?
Sure, yeah, I was born in Prince George, but I was only here for a very short time before I was whisked back up to the Yukon, and that's where I grew up for 9 years of my life.
In the Yukon.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's very cold, so
Yeah.
my dad's side of the family all lived up there for a very long time. So, yeah, my mom and dad met and moved up there, and they're no longer together, but that is where I was raised, and I absolutely loved it outside, and that's where I felt most comfortable.
Yeah, and you were there for 9 years, and then you went back to Prince George.
Yeah, then my whole family moved back to Prince George to be closer to our grandparents, my grandparents, and yeah, now I've been here, and I'm going to university, and my family's all settled here, and some families on the island, and some is here as well.
Now you became really interested in the lumber and forest industry in British Columbia.
Yeah,
What kind of brought you to that?
It's a long story, and no one's story is ever the same. I've been asked this a lot, actually, of, well, why are you in forestry? I care a lot about the environment, and I spent a lot of time outside in the environment, a lot of time on the farm. I was always raised on a farm. And I wanted to be in a career where I could enjoy the just beauty of the outside and the outdoors and protect it as well. And that's kind of where I found an interest in forestry. I did the Adventures in Forestry program through Rotary and learned that they have the diploma at the college, and I completed that diploma and graduated in 2017, and now I'm finishing my degree at UNBC. And I loved it. It was a lot of hard work and very full time, but we got to spend a lot of time outside, which was really great.
So your degree from UNBC will be a degree in, is it a bachelor's?
Yeah, a Bachelor of Science in Forestry. So
Forestry, yeah.
ideally, after I graduate in December, I'll work for a company for 2 years to get my designation as a registered professional forester.
Right.
And that's the goal, to have that under my belt. And then obviously I have a passion for politics, so I want to mix the two together.
Yeah, and that's another part of what you do, because you have a column in the Prince George Citizen, and you're very active on social media, and you ran for an MLA position in the northern riding here,
Caribou Prince George.
Caribou Prince George, for the Green Party.
Yes, in
What
the federal
brought
election.
you to that idea?
Yeah, that was a long story of how I got into that. They asked me a lot of times, and I finally said yes. I talked to everyone that I knew and asked them if they thought it was a good idea to run to be an MP at 22, and everyone said go for it.
Yeah.
So everyone supported me, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. I now have the column to, keep sharing my opinions with people and sharing perspectives as a young person getting into forestry and politics and seeing what's going on in the world right now, and some ways forward. So it was a pretty crazy experience running in the federal election, and I had an absolutely amazing time. So I learned a lot, and I learned a lot from the other candidates and people that I would meet and have coffee with and talk about things like forestry. That was one of the major focuses of my campaign.
Now, there's another driving force underneath all of this, like in my case, my family was in forestry and in Holland, and then I always knew that it would be my career. Did you have somebody in your life that kind of stimulated you to go in that direction?
Yeah, my grandfather, he has been in forestry for a very long time and is an entrepreneur and businessman, and I have learned a lot from my family members, especially him. He's definitely a huge inspiration. So I was pushed in the direction of something outside anyways, because that's what I love. But when I found out about this natural resource environmental tech program, which is now natural resource forest tech at CNC, I jumped on the chance to kind of follow in his footsteps and learn more about forestry, but with my own twist, because I'm very, very passionate about the environment, and I also wanted to integrate that into my career.
Sure. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about your grandfather, because his name is Kurt Garland, and he started Lomac, but he has been in the region for, I've been here for 55 years. He probably has been here.
Yeah, he's been here his whole life.
His whole life, and extremely successful in his own right. You know, he had an operation in Fort Nelson and throughout all the different places. Today, I hope he doesn't mind if I say that, I'm 80, he's 83, but he's still very much at it. He flies airplanes, float planes, jets, and all those things. And then another thing that he did, and absolutely inspiration to a lot of people, he bought Estes Creek and turned it into an amazing, amazing wine manufacturer in the Okanagan. So that's all I'm going to say about Kurt, but an amazing man to have in your life.
He sure is, yeah.
Now, the other thing, if you kind of look back, you know, so if you think in terms of CNC and the programs they have there that then allowed you to transfer into UNBC, and where you are now doing the bachelor's degree, you are able to get from UNBC in Northern British Columbia a registered forester's degree.
Yes.
And that is amazing.
It's really great that I don't have to go anywhere, and I can be here with family and you know, be very close to my family, but also get the skills that I need to follow a career that I'm very interested in.
And it shows that we, you know, are laying the foundation for whatever follows from here. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because you were in the campaign, but you very active in your columns in terms of commentaries on industry, where it is, where it should go, and different opinions about it, which I believe is extremely important and very, very enlightening in my opinion. And you know, so obviously what has happened in the industry in the last number of years, we had virtually what we call as industry people virtually a perfect storm. Markets went down rapidly, meaning that the cost of timber stumpage was high and lumber prices were low. A lot of mills were shut down on a temporary basis, and throughout the region and throughout the province actually. And then, but the other thing, in talking in particular now the interior, what happened is that because of the pine beetle pandemic, and including the spruce beetle pandemic, with all the debris left behind in the bush and the fires in particular in 2017 and 18, it reduced substantially the amount of annual allowable cut, which is the volume that the mills use. So we have too much capacity, not enough timber, and hence a lot of shutdowns.
Yeah. I think we've been seeing huge changes happening in the forest industry, and we were talking a lot about the future, and we'll talk a little bit about that some more later, but I think it's really important that we look forward, because we need to change the way that we are doing things to adapt to climate change, which is affecting all of these issues that you just brought up, right? Pine beetle and the forest fires. We need to also be accounting for that and talking about how we can be looking at solutions.
Yeah, and climate change is undeniable.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, so as we look forward, you know, the most people thinking forward know the industry will change.
Yeah.
In the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, the industry will look totally different in terms of the skill sets required. Names on buildings likely will change, and the products that we make for new markets, all of that will change. And you know, that means that more will be done by technologies that we're not even using as much now, in terms of robotics, scanning facilities, and extracting more from the resource.
I think we should really definitely be talking about taking more, you know, everyone says value added products, it's kind of a buzzword, but I think, you know, adding more value per hectare to our forests and making sure that we're getting out as much as we possibly can, so that we don't have to, you know, over harvest and just make 2x4s. There's so many other things that we could be doing.
So I say add more, you know, extract more social and economic value from the resource. We have an amazing, you know, we are so fortunate to live in Canada, but especially, you know, the BC and the interior of BC, the working forest land base has an ability to grow do likely better than we are doing now, but it means investing more into the land base.
Yeah.
And then the other part that we talked about earlier a little bit is that I've always believed that we need to say the center of the province is Prince George. This is the spruce capital of the world. I believe that between the university and CNC, that's all good so far, but we have to go beyond that. Mm-hmm. We have to build a center of excellence that deals with the new skill sets, new products for new markets, new methods of manufacturing, and all of that. We should be developing here in our region.
Yeah, if we can keep things as local as possible, it'll just be better for all of us. And I think that we need to be talking about the implications of AI and technology and robotics and how that's going to affect our jobs, because that's what everyone wants to talk about, right? And jobs in the economy and how we can secure them. So I think that we need to be talking about what the future looks like with robots possibly taking away a lot of the jobs that you would see in a pulp and paper mill. I worked at Northwood for 3 summers, and a lot of things have changed. There's a lot less people that used to work there that are there now that used to work there, and it's going to even get worse, right? So we need to be retraining and talking about new technology and how we can be talking about new value-added products like cross-laminated timber and just all of these extra products that you are you specialize in as well. So I think that when we're talking about this, we need to have everyone around the table that has experience with this and people that may have fresh ideas and want to look forward into the future, like myself, but not have as much experience as someone like yourself.
At the same time, we all agree on the fact that climate change is undeniable. There is no question about that. The other one that I believe we can accept as a fact is that we are lucky to have a land base like we have in a working forest in the province of British Columbia, that we can likely stimulate more growth per hectare from that forest. There is still questions about the species because of global warming, potentially, and that we will then, that alone, because of our land base and proximity to market, Asia on the one side, Europe on the other side, in North America here, the market location is there. So how do we, get enough understanding that we have to make the investment into a center of excellence? No different. Sweden went through the same thing as we did 25, 30 years ago and changed the entire industry. We have to do that here. And it has to start here to develop a center of excellence for developing new products for new markets, and that it becomes available to everybody and not proprietary to a group or an area, but to the world as large, so that people come from far and wide and want to learn and understand what we are doing. You agree with that?
I totally agree. I think that we need to be talking about, how we manage our forests, because if we want to be increasing management, that comes with sometimes environmental degradation. So we need to find that balance. If we're going to over-manage or highly manage a certain area, that's great because we'll get more socioeconomic benefits, but we also need to be taking into consideration how we can do that in the most environmentally friendly way. They talk a lot in class about the benefits to what we have now, to like a triad zonation of forestry where you have some very over-harvested and over-managed areas, and then less and less and less, and then some untouched areas, and the pros and cons to that kind of system. And I think that we need to have a full discussion with everyone involved as to what is best. I think that we can actually look to our Indigenous neighbors to see what some of the best kind of management is, because they've been doing it for thousands of years.
I agree.
So I think that we need to be talking about all of these things and how we can be moving forward to make the lightest impact on the environment, but also be benefiting our our economy and our society around us. Because how do we manage success in our community, right? Are we managing it just on GDP and growth, or are we looking and seeing that there's still people sleeping on the street, and how we can help improve our society as a whole and not just for a select few? And I think that we need to be talking about that as well.
I agree. And then I was very encouraged by the program at UNBC has how many people in it?
Yeah, the Forestry Program has a few hundred graduating this spring. Don't quote me on the number, but it's very high. The Forestry Program is one of the most popular at UNBC.
Yeah, a lot of people feel now, and I'm not one of them, in fact, to the contrary, that, the forest industry, because of all the issues that have happened recently, and I don't underestimate that, what happens to communities and people losing their jobs, that's very, very serious. But at the same time, we have to look forward. And looking forward means that we have the land base, we have the location, we have willing parties to invest, and obviously the younger generation believes in a future in the forest industry. Hence, so many people are participating in
at the school, in the program. I think it's really great as well to see the demographic change, because we have a lot more women in forestry now at UNBC and at the college than you would have ever seen 20 years ago. So I think that's absolutely incredible as well, and should be noticed. I think that as we look forward, we're going to be doing a lot of changing. So people need to be able to adapt and change and willing to talk about new ideas, because a lot of the time we get bogged down in, oh, well, that's how it used to be. So I think we need to be open to looking at new ideas.
So if you look at all the stakeholders, First Nations as one, we're very important that they are part of the solution and the long-term solution in particular. A lot of the current operations that are trying to survive, be going as an industry to being the highest cost producer from where they were 10 years ago or 5 years ago, being the lowest cost producer.
Right.
To find the balance again between, it will never be where it used to be, but that all stakeholders have to become part of the solution. Yeah. That means including communities, and that means First Nations, and then the younger generation seeing a future, and in the industry.
Yeah, a lot of the time, we were talking a little bit about boards and who sits on the boards, and I think that there's a lot of organizations now bringing more young people onto boards to bring that perspective, so that it's not an echo chamber. And I think that I'm seeing a lot of that happening in the industry. So that's really great to see people bringing new perspectives and allowing younger people. I was just at the Natural Resource Forum, the conference, and there was, a couple more young people than I saw the year before. I've been going for a couple years, and we get in by volunteering, and then it's really great. We get to attend the workshops, and I think that having ideas like that brought forward so that we can access these kind of events for an affordable price, because otherwise, it's very hard for us to get in there. But I think it's very important to have young people on panels and on boards and invited to these events to discuss and talk with these people that are sitting, very high up in some very high up places and government officials.
Yeah, you're very active on social media, and you have lots of followers, so they have the attention. So, and obviously that's a vehicle that allows new ideas and new thoughts coming out. How do you look at, so here you are in your early 20s and contemplating career. You have already such an amazing foundation. Where do you go from here?
Yeah, I am aiming to finish the degree in December, and summer job right now is just a couple months, so I won't be choosing a summer job probably that is going to be my future career this year. Graduate December, and then hopefully work for a company for 2 years so that I can complete my registered professional forestry designation. And ideally, I see the benefit to running in politics, obviously because I did it, of being kind of on the inside and having your voice heard on the inside, whether it's in Parliament or in the legislature or in City Hall. I think that there's a benefit to being on the inside, but there's also a lot of impact that you can have that we were talking about from being on the outside.
Exactly.
And working for a company or owning a company, or just being on the outside as well. So I think that there's benefits to both, and I really love public engagement, and I love educating people and talking with people about different ideas and bringing them to the table to try and just kind of bring everyone's brain into the center, because I think that we can get a lot more things done with more people at the table than with less, and the most diverse kind of people that we possibly can get to join us. So I think that's what I'm really passionate about, is educating and bringing people together to look at the future of what either forestry is going to be, or agriculture I'm very passionate about, or the environmental movement, and how we're going to get all of these things to come together so that we can have a prosperous and healthy society in the future.
Yeah. So, how excited was your family about you moving into politics?
They were pretty excited. They probably didn't expect me to be running for the Green Party, but I got a lot of support. So that was very amazing of them, and yeah, they will definitely support me in any of my future endeavors.
Obviously.
But no, it was an interesting conversation a lot of the time with some people that weren't so supportive that I know, and some that were, and I think that just being able to have a conversation with someone that you disagree with is so healthy and needed in the society.
An amazing experience, really.
Yes, really. Like, especially, just dealing with the other candidates. Obviously, we have different points of view. We're running for different parties.
This was not only about forestry.
Exactly.
This was about everything.
Right? Everything, yeah.
And so you had to be quick on your feet.
Yeah.
You had to be a quick listener, and then discussing issues. So where did you get your experience in becoming? I always believe that that it is extremely important to become an effective communicator in all things that you do in order to become successful. Where did you get that particular experience?
Well, 4-H, it's a youth development organization, and most people think it's based in agriculture, which that's a large part of it, but it's also about just youth development. So I attended every public speaking competition for the 13 years that I was in 4-H, and that's definitely where I got it from. I was honored to be the provincial ambassador for 4-H in BC, and then moved on to the national ambassador for the entire province in Ottawa, and that was one of the best experiences, because that's what kind of kick-started me into knowing that I'm really interested in bringing people's voices forward that aren't necessarily heard. Because I would bring the voices of the 4-H members in British Columbia to Ottawa, and I really liked that responsibility of bringing forward all of their combined ideas to influence policy within the 4-H program in Ottawa. And that's kind of where I got the spark. It's very similar to what you would do as an elected MP or MLA, so I really liked that idea, and I really enjoyed communicating with people and bringing all their ideas forward.
Yeah, so and I know you agree with me, that if you will become or want to become, which you already are, in a leadership role or aspire to that, either in politics or wherever, or communicate your message, it is absolutely critical that you find a vehicle that helps with becoming an effective communicator, for one, but also an effective listener. And you and me were talking about it a little bit before. 4-H did that for you, and then there was another program the Rotaries had put on, that was the Adventures in Forestry, and again, the same idea of becoming more effective. And the other vehicle I always talk about when the opportunity presents itself is that what I found, I spent 10 years in Toastmasters and became the highest level of Toastmaster, distinguished Toastmaster, that my life would not have been the same without it. Toastmasters is, it used to cost $1 a week, and but it's so critical in your own personal life, but also in terms of ideas that you pursue or leadership roles that you aspire to, and
Yeah, I think that having any program that you're a part of, whether it's 4-H or Toastmasters or being part of Rotary, they do some great things in the community as well. I think that if you can learn to become an effective communicator, the sky's the limit, really.
So in closing, as we look forward, we have to invest more into the land base in terms of more intensive forestry. Now, there is one issue that is delicate. I'm not a proponent of it, but is spraying. What are your views on that?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people don't know that we spray our entire province with glyphosate.
And what is the spraying material?
So glyphosate is the chemical herbicide that we would use to kill off like broadleaf aspen trees, those kind of things, to help improve growth of pine and spruce and the more financially beneficial trees.
What are the negative effects of it?
A lot.
Okay.
There's actually a Facebook page called
is it toxin?
Stop the Spray BC, and it has a lot of information about the negative impacts. I mean, first of all, you're killing all of your broadleaf species, which they can become fire breaks and barriers. We wouldn't have had such a detrimental 2017-18 wildfires if we hadn't have killed off every single broadleaf species in our managed forests. It will also help with pine beetle because, you know, the pine beetles can only move so far. If they're broken up with broadleaf species, we'll have less damage from that as well. It's also great habitat, you know, and food sources. It affects, you know, the blueberries and all the berries that are on the forest floor for people that are foraging and animals as their habitat and what they're eating.
So the primary objective is to suppress broadleaf growth that could have an adverse effect on the desired species?
Yes, because we have to hit free to grow in such a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
We need the pine trees or whatever species, we have a lot of pine out there,
Yeah.
to grow as fast as possible. Well, if you have a little bit of shading from a broadleaf tree, that free to grow, you're not going to hit it in time. So what they need to do is, you know, they kill off the broadleaf to slow down growth and kill it off so that the pine can grow as fast as possible.
So what is the alternative, Mackenzie?
Well, we have, you know, I think that we need to be looking at ecosystem-based management, and we need to be looking at the benefits of keeping those broadleaf and not have such a short time frame of free to grow. Because I don't think that we need to be just looking at what are the other alternatives of getting rid of them. No, let's talk about keeping them.
Yeah.
Right? So we need to be talking about, you know, we can do manual trimming, etc., if we need to, right? But I think that we need to be looking at the benefits of keeping them and how you can have a healthy ecosystem.
So it's a delicate balance.
It is. It really is.
But first and foremost, you have to have knowledge, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And the public has to have knowledge, and then it becomes a question of how do we do that? How do we accomplish it? That it is possible and viable, right?
Yeah, we have, you know, great examples from all over the world of ecosystem-based management where you keep the broadleaf and you have healthy, you know, wildlife populations and you have good buffers between watersheds, and just to make sure that, you know, you're taking care of your environment and you're not cutting the trees really close to the creek sides and things like that.
Our center of excellence, which I believe will be built in Prince George, will deal with those issues all the way to how do we manufacture, how do we develop the skill sets, new products for new markets, and but also very importantly, how do we effectively manage the forest for the highest possible yield, keeping the delicate balance.
Exactly, it is such a balance.
Mackenzie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching A History of the BC Forest Industry, and tune in next week.